And now it's my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today, Alyssa Aguilera. Hello, dear. Lovely
Hi.
to see you. So we welcome you here today and looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I was on the board before I had a baby, but I had a new appreciation for maternal health workers after I had a baby, for sure. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having us. Yeah, we are your neighbors. We've been at 4th Avenue between St. Mark's and Bergen for about 20 years, and you'll hear a little bit more about our building issues. But even personally, I live on Prospect Park West between 3rd and 4th, so I'm really close to your building. I'm interested to see what happens to the space. So the video was just, I think a good introduction to like who we are and what we do. But I have a little presentation, and so we can just kind of roll through this. So Vocal. So we are a 22-year-old organization, and really we do a few things, right? We first are grassroots community organizers. So we organize people impacted by HIV, drug use, incarceration, and homelessness. And we like try to pass policies in the city and state level to make people's lives better. And at the same time, we also have a direct services component. So we do operate a syringe exchange program and harm reduction services at our storefront. I don't know how many of you saw our storefront before, but it's like you can walk in, there's a drop-in center, bathrooms, care coordination, Hep C testing, HIV testing. So that's all in our storefront. And then really we actually need to reach more people through our mobile units, right? So we are driving around to 11 neighborhoods throughout the borough to provide those services. So we have a real deep roots in Brooklyn, been in the neighborhood for a long time. Obviously, 4th Avenue has changed tremendously over the last even few years. And so, I want to talk a little bit today about like how that's impacted our organization. And of course, like COVID and everything has been, it's been a really wild time the last few years. But this is just kind of like a little trajectory. So we have grown a lot, right? So even in the last few years, we've seen significant growth. Our membership base is mostly Black and Latino folks. All of our members identify as directly impacted by the issues that we work on. And even through COVID, we've really been able to see that growth and really switching a little bit to more like digital tools and text banking and other ways, Zoom, as we all are Zooming now, to continue the work and keep things going. Okay, so this is just a snapshot of just like our organizing projects, but we sort of the way that we operate is that we have projects based on certain issue areas, right? So we have our civil rights union, that's where formerly incarcerated people come together, our positive leaders union, people living with HIV, our homeless union, users union, homeless folks, drug users. And then we also have been, getting more involved in just general movement building work. So, that's the Build Back Better plan, that's climate justice, that's, Invest in Our New York, which was a campaign to, raise taxes on the rich in order to pay for, the things, social services and housing, the things that we all need. And then we also have a program we call She's So Vocal that's really all about women and building the leadership of women within our organization. And then this talked a little bit about, but like our direct services program, so fully what we do is syringe exchange, care coordination, Hep C testing, drop-in center, street outreach, and overdose prevention. So getting a lot in naloxone out there. You might have seen that, 100,000 people died of overdose from April 2020 to April 2021, which is like the largest rate of death that we've ever seen in our country's history. So it's been really important that, that harm reduction services organizations like ours that are really trying to keep people alive and are going, our folks go to street encampments, they go to under the BQE, they go everywhere to find people. And oftentimes those are the folks that are the most vulnerable and disconnected to care. So that's something that's really important to us in our work. And then this is just some like recent accomplishments. So despite everything, we had our most winning legislative session ever in 2021. Part of that is because a governor who was in the way of a lot of our stuff suddenly was no longer in office. So we were able to, or also was a bit more vulnerable. So we wanted to pass some things to get some wins under his belt. But for us, that was, we've been working on marijuana justice for many years, really from the start of, 10 years ago, talking about marijuana arrest, and then also like expanding access to medical marijuana for our members who are living with HIV and other people with chronic illness, to then finally the marijuana legalization bill that passed recently that is really rooted in racial and economic justice, which is something that was like really important. We knew that marijuana legalization was coming, but we wanted to do it the right way. We also were involved in the campaign to end long-term solitary confinement in New York, other things about, bail reform, criminal justice reform, how are we going to get more housing for the homeless, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't have to go into all that, but, we're really proud of just the amount of victories that we're getting in terms of concrete policy wins, but also just building the name and power of our organization and making sure that like the issues that we work on are in the public conversation so that, that they're getting the attention they deserve. So now I want to talk a little bit about our space. So here's our old building. I don't know if you guys we're like between this great wine shop and the old Pacific Standard, which is also not there. If anybody's been to this area recently, you'll see that our old building just doesn't exist. It's been completely torn down. And so basically like we had a 10-year lease that we knew was going to end in April 2021. And so we kind of always had that as a date. And maybe like 3 years before the end, and we always had just like a guy who owned the building. He lived in California, was really nice, always kind of cool with us. But eventually buyers came knocking, right? And so he sold the building to developers. The developer at the time only had our little lot, and he was just really waiting until somebody, one of our neighbors, either to the side or to the back of us, would sell. And then that way he'd have enough footprint to actually put up it's going to be like luxury housing, like condos. And so we thought that maybe that he wasn't going to get that, but all of a sudden Pacific Standard, those guys sold, and then he had enough. And so they bought both of those together, and we were out. So luckily we had a little bit of a heads up, and we hired Hester Street Collaborative, which is a nonprofit organization that really helps other nonprofits find space. And so we did, we talked a little bit about with all of our staff and our members and our boards and our participants of like, what are the constraints of our current spaces? What are the things that we want in a new space to really sort of have that vision of something that like, what is our next home for hopefully like the next 20, 30 years going to look like. And then here's the other part is like sort of just being priced out. And so we were able to, we also like worked with, this is like a long 3-year saga that I'm gonna put in quickly, but basically we were able to find another location that was pretty close to where our current office is. So our current office is 84th Ave, and then our new office is going to be at 300 Douglas. So it's not that far, like a 5-minute walk, which is great. And it's very, I don't know if you guys know that block, but it's like very industrial, right? A lot of old warehouses, and essentially it would need a full gut renovation. So we were able to and so all of this is happening at the same time that we really want to own the building. And so the path to being able to do that for us, like we just don't have, $4 million in the bank to spend on a building, is that we needed help from the city council capital dollars. So we knew that we could go through that process. Hester Street was incredibly important to that because they were just like the project managers and helping us get through that place. Because we have some good political relationships because of our work, we were able to get funding from, it's really important you have a good relationship with the local council members and the borough president. So we were able, and the speaker really, so we were able to get, some funding commitments, which was great. And really the plan was, is that we signed a long-term lease to own agreement, and that we're in it right now, and we're renovating the building, and hopefully soon we'll be able to be in there, and then we can move through the acquisition process. So, and just to take a step back, so we did get the city council money in July. So it's $2.4 million from the city council plus $600,000 from the borough president. So that's like a huge game changer for us, of course. And so this is sort of like a mock of what the new site will look like. It'll be, it'll give us the ability to like dramatically expand our harm reduction services. We'll be able to do medical office, showers, laundry, and more on site. We'll have 6,000 square feet of office and meeting space, a new computer lab, phone bank, and library for our members. And most importantly, it'll be a permanent place that we own. So we don't have to worry about getting kicked out or getting bought out again in the future. And so this is just sort of like the project plan. So renting and renovating, I will say the renovating is taking us a lot longer than we expected, as I think most people that do a renovation in New York City would say, but particularly the supply chain issues have been a real challenge for us. And so we're getting close. We were supposed to be there a few months ago, but hopefully we'll be in there soon. And so and then now we can also start the process of getting that city council money. The huge challenge with the city council money is you get it allocated, but it's not probably a year later that you actually get the money in your bank account. And it's a lot of bureaucracy to get through. So we're working on that piece, but and then the last part is just is the long-term financing. So the building costs $4 million to acquire, cost about $2 million to renovate. So it's a $6 million project. And so we either have to raise money or think about financing. So right now we're thinking about a tax exempt bond structure, or maybe just a regular mortgage. And then also just trying to raise as much money as we can to keep that sort of debt service as small as possible. And so this was our groundbreaking in March, which was really great to be there, and we had a little party and got some shovels and did our whole thing. So that was I think in March, and so hopefully before next March we'll be doing a real move-in ceremony and ribbon cutting, and we can be in the space. And then this is just more details on sort of the budget piece. So sort of going back to that $6 million total, and sort of where we're looking at in terms of city capital plus, I don't know, all the stuff. I don't know how interesting this is to anybody, but and yeah, so it just leaves us here with we've raised about half the total amount. We're doing a capital campaign now to raise the rest of it. But yeah, I mean, I think really it's that city council capital money is the most important thing that has happened sort of in our timeline, just so that we can that just gives us such a huge boost. And just for reference, our annual operating budget is about $4 million. So having, it's not we're a huge nonprofit that, raising $3 million is nothing. It's definitely a lift and a multi-year plan for us. But I guess I just wanted to stop there to give you a little bit. I know you guys are talking about a lot of building things as well. So just give a little snapshot of where we're at and what we're up to, and happy to answer questions about the capital campaign, the work that we do, anything that would be helpful.